Hey everybody, back again. Today we're going to drink a new tea that just came out pretty recently. And it is the Rooster, the Yiwu Rooster. I forget if I call it Rooster Yiwu or Yiwu Rooster. But it is pressed. It's a 250 gram cake, pressed from spring 2017 Yiwu plantation, wild arbor. Definitely not from old trees or anything like that, but really just generally high quality Yiwu tea that was wet piled in the summer. And this is again from spring harvest as opposed to summer harvest. So it has a lot of typically ripe teas typically are made from summer harvested teas, just because summer harvested pu'er is generally pretty inappropriate for making sheng pu'er, whereas spring is generally the best for harvests. And so when we use spring tea and wet pile it and turn it into ripe pu'er, we get a special product. And this has become kind of more popular over the years as people have developed kind of a mature it's a market for kind of more premium ripe teas has matured, and people are willing to pay maybe what they would for a sheng cake for a shu cake. So here we have it. It's going for $56, so it's definitely one of the more pricey cakes, ripe cakes that we sell, especially for a new one. But I really think that it's worth it. It is a new tea, so we'll keep that in mind. Very new, very fresh, ripe. So anyways, without further ado, let's get started here. Brew it up, just boil the water. We got 7.2 grams here in the silver teapot, 120 milliliter silver teapot. As you know, I'm a big fan of silver. I'm using this almost every video now, so for pu'ers, I find that it's just a great pot. So yeah, let's just give it a little wash here. And just again to reiterate, young ripe pu'ers have kind of wet pile taste or fishy taste, if you like, that will fade over a few years. But fishiness or wet pile taste in young raw pu'er, young ripe pu'er is totally normal. It just is something that you get. It's not a sign of anything other than it's young, and it will fade, just as this gradual kind of fading out. This one's already, I wouldn't say super, a little bit of that, but it probably sat for about 8 or 9 months in a loose leaf form before we pressed it. So when the ripe pu'er is in a loose leaf form, it definitely loses that wet pile taste a little bit faster. Once you compress it, it tends to lock it in, and it slows down. It slows down that process of losing that wet pile taste. But pressing the ripe teas or pu'er teas in general definitely increases the potency of the tea, and it increases the ageability of the tea. And it's just something that, I think definitely benefits the tea. So let's, give it a pretty short infusion. I'm not gonna, I'll try to give it a little bit of a chance here in the early part, rather than just, sometimes I just like to just brew it pretty strong from the get-go, like 30-40 seconds, just because I like to kind of get to the meat, as it were. But I'm gonna take a little slower with this one because I'm still kind of getting to know this tea since we pressed it. So nice little kind of, you can almost smell the creaminess in it, the kind of subdued. There's still a bit of the water, what we call shui wei, which is like a water taste in the tea. And that's from the pressing. So they steam the leaves so that they can press it. And after it's been pressed, it can take a few months for that to lose that water taste. There's a little bit of that, but it's mostly gone now. Sweet, oily. Tea is still chunked up here inside the pot. There's still the two noticeably distinct chunks that I put in there. So drink this here. Nice, sweet and oily, really full-bodied. That's what really drew me to this tea. It's interesting because I ended up drinking this tea the first time as a sample on the same day with a Boulang ripe tea. Oh, there's Lucy. Something's got her upset. But yeah, I drank this tea the first time as a sample with some Boulang. Was it Boulang or was it, actually no, it was a Lao Manga, which is in Boulang, a Lao Manga ripe, which was even more expensive. And while I liked both of them a lot, this one definitely won out just because I thought it had more character, and it actually went longer than the Lao Manga tea. So we're back, a little brief interlude there. Had to go get Lissy, and somebody was whistling at her out of their car, so it sounded like there was somebody coming onto the property or something like that. So probably just somebody whistling at her, probably a neighbor. She's pretty cute, so I think, you know, she tends to attract a lot of attention. But yeah, anyways, I found that this tea was, I was really just taken with this tea the first time I had it. Creamy, full-bodied, really sweet. Just that thickness, the body that this tea has, I'm really impressed with. And then there's kind of like, almost like a, I don't want to say a roastedness to it, but there's almost like a nuttiness, you know, to it, which I really, really like. But yeah, it's really been interesting to see the progression of ripe pu'er as a product in China and in general in the pu'er tea market. Not so much in the West, although I think what's happened in China is playing out here in the West, which is just really high quality teas being used for ripe teas. You know, like now we have some like Hailong, who's made tea from Lao Banjiang, and Yishanwo and Yiwu, and his Chujian, which is like the 5 Banjiang area villages, Xin Banjiang, Lao Banjiang, Lao Maya, and some other ones where he made a ripe tea from. So it's pretty incredible. I think just people have figured out that, wow, if you take ripe, high quality tea and turn it into ripe pu'er, you're gonna have something that's really, you know, that's really, really good. But if that appreciation for ripe pu'er isn't there, that how developed it becomes, then it's just gonna be, it's gonna be hard to convince people to spend that extra money, and it'll be hard for producers to want to actually produce, you know, tea, ripe pu'er tea from high quality tea leaves like Brewing and from wild arbor, and even you know, gushu. And although I think pure gushu you know, ripe productions are rare and typically, you know, hyper expensive. Of course, there are a lot of, I think, teas out there that are being sold as gushu ripe that aren't gushu ripe, but maybe they're just higher quality you know, ripe teas from Brewing or from, you know, old plantation or wild arbor tea that maybe isn't old but is high quality. Ultimately, I think you just have to look at it in terms of what, you know, the price, and if you're comfortable paying the price, and if it's good enough for you. I would try not to look too much at all the different claims and things like that, you know, just because, you know, it's really hard to know, you know, is it is it what they say it is, and all these kinds of things. But ultimately, I think you have to go with your palate and decide for yourself. You know, it's one thing to get a sample, but it's another thing to really invest in these kind of more expensive ripe teas. So, you know, do your homework, but also really just ultimately rely on, you know, on your palate and your gut, and to tell you, you know, like, this tea I think is worthwhile. Again, just really thick, creamy, sweet. Oh, Lucy came back. Oh. Come here, Lucy. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, yo. Oh, yo. Oh, yo. Were you barking at a squirrel out there? No, leave it. Come on. Watch out. Watch out. Get on your bed. Get on your bed. Lucy is very motivated by food. I'm gonna keep going here. But yeah, I feel that this tea is worth the price that we're asking. Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be selling it and I wouldn't have pressed it. But it might not be for everybody. You know, if you're happy with some of the other productions, like the Rooster King, which is a great tea, the Crimson Rooster, which is a great tea, you know, this tea may or may not be worth it for you. But I think, if anything, it's definitely worth trying a sample. If you don't, you know, if you find that the wet pile taste is too strong for you, then, you know, you could, you know, maybe look for it in a couple of years when it's going to be a little bit more, you know, aged. Let's keep going here. All kinds of distractions here today. Lucy is a constant distraction, but a good distraction most of the time, right, Lucy? But what else? I'm trying to think what else is going on in the land of Yunnan sourcing. Not much. Not much, but a lot at the same time. Nothing to report. Oh, actually, I do want to plug Yunnan Sourcing Fans. Yunnan Sourcing Fans is a closed group, but generally we accept everybody, as long as you're not gonna try to, you know, plug your own tea company teas or somebody else's teas on there. Yunnan Sourcing Fans group on Facebook. If you just search Yunnan Sourcing Fans, and we'll add you in, and you can participate with a bunch of other Yunnan sourcing customers on there. You could ask questions. A lot of times you're looking for recommendations, or you just want to share and get other people's, you know, feedback, or just talk about teas that we offer. You can go on Yunnan Sourcing Fans, and I think it's a very friendly group, and it's a good place for people to go who don't want to be you know, get bogged down in people who are being mean and you know, just elitism and snobbery, which I find that exists in a lot of other Facebook groups that are talking about tea, because we are really focused just on you know, the Yunnan sourcing teas, what we offer. So I think, you know, again, it's, of course, you know, there's going to be some level of bias there, because you're only going to be talking to Yunnan sourcing customers and people who like Yunnan sourcing teas. But at the same time, if that's what you're looking for and you want to get some recommendations on our teas, I think you'll find pretty honest opinions, because there's just other people who, you know, some people you know, will like the teas and other people won't, and I think people will you know, other people on there will give you a good straight answer. The strength of the tea is really coming out in this infusion. I think we pretty much, those There's still a little bit of chunkiness in there. But yeah, the strength of the tea is really coming out now. It's really thick. It's got a nice dark tea soup. I wouldn't say it's jet black, but it's definitely not transparent either. And this is it's almost got like a coffee like beaniness to it. A little bit of bitterness in there, very slight, but just really quickly transforms in the mouth. That beany kind of almost like oily. There's definitely some coffee element to it there, especially in that steep. Really interesting, but quickly transforms into something really sweet. The other thing really worth mentioning about this tea is it's a relatively light, medium to light fermentation tea. So when it was wet piled, a lot of care was given so that the tea wasn't overly, basically oxidized, as it were, or composted. So it still has a little bit of greenness in the leaf, which I think is a really good thing. And that gives it, I think that gives it a lot of the body that it has. And it also will really work well for, for longer term aging. So big mouthful there. I realized I didn't breathe, so I'm gonna, I tend to get a little ahead of myself. The other thing also worth mentioning about this tea that's really cool is it's not like a typical ripe pour from a tea factory where you would have tea that's Mao cha that's harvested, and then it's turned into ripe pour through wet piling, and then it's put through a grading machine where it separates the leaves out into different, sizes, gongting, teji, iji, sanji, like that. This is just a very small batch, and it's just the leaves picked in the traditional way, like they would for sheng cha, for mao cha. It may very well be that this tea was in fact picked as sheng pu'er mao cha, and then later decided that they wanted to process it as ripe. But as such, inside and out of the cake is all the same type of leaf. So it's typically 1 leaf, or sorry, 2 leaf to 1 bud tea. And it's not been graded, it's not been blended, with different leaf sizes to create a recipe. It's just one area's tea, traditional pick, no grading, no blending tea. So that's really, I think, one of the things also that makes it fairly unique as well. And not to say that there's anything wrong with blending different grades of ripe pour tea leaves together. We do it all the time for some of our productions. This is just hasn't been separated and then put back together again in a recipe. It was just made, as it were. So the other thing that's really nice about this is, I think the wrapper, although it's dark, it almost looks like a woodcut, wood carving, like a like they would do like various colors on a wood stamp. And this artist's name is Ronald Visser, and Ronald's out of the Netherlands. He's designed some of our other wrappers as well in previous years. So yeah, thanks to Ronald. Let's go with another steep here. I want to get this one going. The other thing that I really like about this tea is, I'm going to put this little piece back in here. I don't want to waste it. The other thing that I really like about this tea is that I think it's pretty infusible too. I mean, we're here, I don't know, what are we on, steep 5, and it's still, it's actually stronger than 2 steeps before. Now I'm getting the sweetness is a little bit more pronounced. The beaniness from the last thing is still there, but it's not quite as strong. I'm noticing a little bit of like I don't want to say camphor, but that kind of woody, almost herbaceous kind of sweetness. Would you like some more treat, Lucy? Here you go. bit my finger. That's not very nice, Lucy. That's how hungry she is. All right, I have to be patient. Patience, patience. But what else? I mean, you can only really talk about a tea so much. Ultimately, you gotta try it. And actually, I think, yeah, I would definitely recommend getting a sample of it if you're at all interested. Just try it and remember that fishy taste will fade. There is a bit of it. It's not too much. But. I'm actually going to reboil one more time. We didn't boil enough water, so when you use, that's the other thing, is I like to use a bunch of water because it tends to keep its temperature better when you boil a lot of it. But hot water is definitely key. Having the water as hot as possible. Sweet. A little bit of dried fruit. The creaminess has faded a little bit. Probably not best to keep reboiling the water, but oh well. I'm just gonna dump it out. I almost lost the tea out of my mouth. It almost just dribbled out of my mouth for some reason. Let's push this a little bit here. Oh. Wow, Lucy heard something. We pushed it. We did a little chop there because we pushed it, you know, to try to save time. I'm gonna hit it up again one more time, but oops. Yeah, the later stages in this tea, I think we're up to 7 now. Still going strong, nice color. It's weakened a little bit, but it's entered this real strong plateau phase. Hi, Lucy, you don't have any more treats. And it's really sweet. It's still got nice creaminess, a little more sweet. You don't get that beany kind of bitterness as much. Yummy. But I'd say this is just a real straightforward, good, ripe, a lot of body, a lot of sweetness. I'd say very good infusibility in that it can be infused many times. And I think it's just going to continue to age, to improve with age as well, both in the near term and the long term. So I definitely check it out. I feel that if you are a fan of ripe tea and you're looking for something that's different and also complex, good, then definitely check this out. I think it's a really solid cake. So yeah, check it out. That's about it. We're gonna cut it off here so the video is not too long, but definitely subscribe below. And as I said, check out Yunnan Sourcing Fans on Facebook, and also just check out the Yunnan Sourcing Facebook page as well, facebook.com/Yunnan Sourcing. Check us out on Instagram, Yunnan_sourcing on Instagram. And yeah, thanks for watching.